might say it's not genuine or something like that, but it really was just me trying to be genuine with that person. Relationships can be intentional and they can still be genuine.
Hospitality is who we are, and you can talk about whether that's something that is just ingrained in you or if it's something you learn. Anybody can learn to be hospitable.
We've had people with kids over and they've all cried when they left. Hey guys, welcome to the Coffee Snob podcast. Today we're going to talk about hospitality and how it's a huge essential part of doing business. A lot of people come to me and they say, I don't know if I have what it takes to open this coffee shop. We've crunched the numbers, we've taken a look at how much an espresso machine is going to cost, et cetera, but they don't consider the hospitality side of it. And it is the business that you're doing. The espresso machine, the coffee just make all that possible. So we're going to dive into that a little bit and just kind of tackle some of the questions that people have.
Okay, Lance, why is hospitality important?
Yeah.
Why is it important to running and opening a coffee shop?
Yeah, so I would say hospitality is important because it's not a part of what you're doing, it's what you're doing. People don't come to a coffee shop just to get a product necessarily. There's this underlying thing inside of people that wants to connect with another person. There's this underlying current in people that they want to be a part of something bigger. I feel like when you go into a coffee shop, when you go into a restaurant, when you go into anything, that's why atmosphere matters. That's why things like excellence matter. That's why when the hostess comes to you and smiles and asks you about yourself, that's why all that matters, is because all of a sudden you're being accepted and you're being brought into the fold. And then you're a part of this environment all of a sudden, and you're part of this atmosphere. And I think a lot of people just miss that when they just try to provide a product, when they just try to give somebody something that they want on the surface, and they don't tackle the deeper side of wanting something.
Yeah, I think that people come into our shop and we kind of tease that baristas are like the new bartenders.
Yeah.
I mean, they come in and they want a coffee, but they also want a smile. Yeah. They also want a little bit of conversation. And a lot of our customers that are repeat customers, we might have the daily chit chat, but there will come a time building up in the weeks that we have a little deeper conversation, or like, man, how's your mom doing? Or how are those kids? Or how did that thing go that we were talking about, that you remembered from the previous conversation that they were worried about, or needed advice about, or just needed someone to share with. So I do think that if you're having a cafe or coffee shop, it is important to remember that a lot of times your customers want more than coffee, and it doesn't cost you anything to give that to them.
Like this is a person with a soul.
Yeah.
It's not just another number. It's not just another
dollar
bills coming in. Yeah. It's a human connection that they're wanting. And it's not like we use that to get money out of people. And I think that's where a lot of people get it backwards. And I think people can smell that when you go into a place and it's just about them getting your money. I feel like that's why big chains and big corporations, that's why a lot of people are turned off by that, because they don't have that mom and pop type feel, is because when you go in there, they slap a number on you and you're just another digit. And when you go into a mom and pop place, all of a sudden, you have this personal connection maybe with the person if they're not a jerk, and so it's really important, to be a friend to people.
I think there's a beautiful two-way street too, because you know, a lot of times I feel like our customers come in and they need us. They need a good cup of coffee and some warm conversation.
Yeah.
But we also need them.
Yep.
Like we need them.
Yeah.
We don't have stockholders. We don't have investors. We need you guys. And so there's that mutual dependency when you're connecting.
Yeah.
When you're there's bigger transactions happening than just money.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when I have hard conversations with any kind of staff, that's usually what I go to, because I can always reference my boss. You know, I'm the owner of this company, and people from the outside looking in, or even from a employee standpoint, might say, well, you know, he gets to make all the decisions and do whatever he wants, and I just have to do what he says. But it's not like that. Like, I work for every single person who comes in this door. Like, it is my job to do whatever they tell me to do. And so I'm trying to make them happy, because in a way, like if you look at it in a corporate standpoint, like they're my shareholders. They're the people that I'm trying to please. And it's not just that I'm trying to please them, it's that I'm trying to build a relationship with them all the time. And so that was one of the things that when I first moved coffee into this place, and I first started working here, it was really important to me to get to know people. But it's really hard to know everybody. It's really hard to remember everybody's name. And so I made a notebook. And when people would walk in, I would introduce myself and we would have a short conversation. I would get to know that person a little bit. And then that was like one building block with them, and I'd send them on their way. And so I'd run over there to my notebook, and I would write their name down, and I would write something about them that I had learned and that I could recognize next time they came in the store. And so what I could do the next time, because I literally could not remember if I didn't write it down, you might say it's not genuine or something like that, but it really was just me trying to be genuine with that person. And so I would write down something about them, and then the next time they came in, I would just turn around and act like I was just doing some work in some papers and look through my notebook and see, like, Johnny smiles, you know, works on a dairy or whatever, you know. And then, you know, then we could have a bigger conversation next time he came in. And it wasn't like I was trying to trick this guy into coming all the time by me like using his name and stuff. That's what corporations do. That's what monsters do. I feel like I was trying to develop a genuine conversation with Johnny, and trying to develop a genuine relationship with him where I could get to know him, even just in here, even just for 5 minutes a day. I could build on that. And then, so I had the one building block, and then the next day I could add another one. The next day I could add another one, until if I saw him outside of these four walls, that we could have a genuine conversation and we knew each other. And so he knew things about me, I knew things about him. And it was just, except I could do that on a larger scale because I was writing things down and I took the time to do that. So that's just like a small kind of picture into how, you know, how I started doing that. But now it's, you know, now I can't do that with everybody because we get so many people in here, but you have a lot of regular customers. And I think it's really important that I realize that my regular customers are actually what keeps this place alive. Repeat customers keep you alive. Without the repeats, then you're going to the grave anyway with your business. And so it's really important that you recognize your repeat customers quickly, that you establish relationships with them, and that those relationships are genuine, and that they're not like you just being a parasite to that person or preying on them, but it's like you get to know that person. You know, if you see him at a restaurant, it's not like you go over there and say hello to him because you're like, oh, that dude spends X amount of money in here every month. But it's important that you go to him and you say, hey man, what's up? Like, this is this is my wife, this is these are my kids. Like,
Yeah,
you're
I
building
think
a
it's
relationship.
really. I think that that notebook trick is actually really great because, we're married, and that's our relationship, and anything that you do that's probably not just natural, like, oh, I just came up with it, but that's intentional still. Like I was being intentional to love you in this way. Yeah. I appreciate that. And I see that and I feel that. So I don't even think, I mean, you could be totally transparent and be like, I wrote down your name last time. And so now
I've told people that, like,
there's nothing wrong with that, because that is just proof that maybe naturally you don't have a good memory. And you're kind of the worst.
Well, not even that, but if you see, say, 50 people that day, in an 8-hour shift, then it's like, you're trying to remember everybody's name and you're just not going to be able to do it.
But that's like, that takes a lot of self-awareness to say, like, I'm not going to remember this person's name, but it's something I really want to do. Yeah. So I've got to do a little work. Yeah. That's okay. I don't think anybody would be offended by that method of just trying to remember their names and connect with them and be intentional. Like, sometimes it takes work to connect with people. And I think that there's a lot of people that is like, oh, well, we just didn't hit it off. And it's like, well, maybe you need to do a little work maybe you need to be a little more intentional. And so I think that's a great tip.
Yeah. So relationship is one big part of hospitality. And this is just stuff that I feel like I learned when I was an early barista, that the corporate powers that be were trying to shove onto us so that we could develop this hospitality, like getting people's names, say, like using people's names, and then them saying, like, when you use somebody's name, they're this much more likely to come back next time, and it's like, but at the same time, it's like they noticed that was true. And so that was something that they say to me, and
But you're not very good at remembering names.
Yeah, but I'm not good at remembering names.
We've literally gone to the same church for like 16 years, and sometimes Lance will introduce himself to someone. He's like, "How long you been going here?" And they're like, 10 years. He's like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I knew that."
Nice to meet you.
But when you're the guy, because he's a music guy, so he's on the stage, or when you're the guy behind the register, you're the constant. And people like, oh, I know you from somewhere. Or they know exactly where they know you from. You kind of even have like a pretty memorable look, kind of iconic with your glasses and your beard and but
every other barista.
But yeah, it can be tough to connect with so many people on deep levels, but just to go the extra mile when you can. I think really goes a long way. I love conversating with people and.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, is that a lot of times relationships can be intentional and they can still be genuine. They don't have to be off the cuff all the time. But even in marriage, say, it's really important that our love comes through to one another intentionally. Even if it means writing things down sometimes. But yeah, so that's one thing that was just in me already, that I knew like, hey, building relationships with people is really important. And it's something that I love about being a barista. I love it about coffee. I love it about food, is that when you have food, you're around a table with a bunch of people. And when you have good coffee, most of the time you're sitting with somebody else. And especially at a coffee shop, you're experiencing this with somebody else. And it's not about just this, it's about the experience that you're having with another person. And that's what makes it beautiful. Like, we had a cup of coffee earlier, and it had like watermelon, floral, lavender notes to it. And it was like, you know, just tasting it, I could get excited about it by myself, but it was so much better because I was experiencing it for the first time with Jared and experiencing it with you. And I was like, you know, we were picking it apart and talking about the flavors.
You're so cute.
Well, it was
You're just adorable.
it was really exciting because we were having this experience together. But so that's one big part of it is, sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice. Is
That's not good for a podcast.
I know, right? Is hospitality. And I think another big one that people overlook is atmosphere. When people come in, and I'm not just talking about how the lights are set or how many tables you have and what kind of chairs they are. I mean, that's all a big part of it when you walk into a place that you feel welcome. And that's one reason, like, I've never done much to this store. We've done a little bit as far as like decor, but it's mostly the way it was when I got here, because that's the way everybody remembers it in our community. And at the end of the day, like, I want this place to be a bigger part of the community around me. I don't want it to be its own entity. And so it's really important that it stays Lingleville, that we still have Clint Eastwood hanging on the wall, Employee of the Month over there, that we have, you know, just little decor things that have been here for years. I've got, you know, Don Sims cowboy hat hanging on a cow horn up there because he used to live up the road and we all remember Don. You know, it's not because just it looks cool, but it's a part of being something bigger. So when people walk in here, I want them to feel like they're at home. I want them to feel like they're welcome.
We're really blessed we try to train our employees to be welcoming too. So when you walk in, it's, you know, the store, its atmosphere, I would say, is like eclectic. It's just very, you know, it's all the different things. It's old and I like it.
It is what it is.
It has a lot of nostalgia.
Yeah.
It is its own personality. But also, so I hope that you feel comfortable when you walk into our store, that you feel comfortable. But then also, like, our employees, they greet you, but it's not like when you go to some change and they're like, welcome, come in, you know, or whatever. They're just hollering at you. They're not looking at you. They're like unboxing like pepperoni.
Or they say the same line. You know, 3 people will walk in the door and they're like, you know, welcome to blah, 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 you know, welcome to blah, blah. You know, it's just like,
which is, I mean,
it's better than nothing.
It's better
I'll say
than
that.
nothing.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. And I don't want to dog anybody, but we didn't really train our people to say a certain phrase or to whatever, but we do always ask that they engage with our customers.
Yeah, that's a huge part.
And what's been really fun is that they have developed their own relationships with our customers, and our customers are at their wedding, and our customers are at their graduations, and our
customers are going to church with them, and our customers, I mean, it's just
And so because they were pushed just a little bit, because I would say, you know, probably half of our employees aren't just the like talk your ear off in the bathroom stall kind of people.
Yeah.
But they have learned to engage with the customers. And then, I mean, this community is so great and our customers are just awesome. And so then relationships are formed there and everybody's needs each other. And so I do think that part of feeling welcomed when you come in is not only the atmosphere, but the atmosphere that you create with your staff when they're like, hey, come in. Hey, welcome. Hey. Even if it's like, how's that weather? We have a lot of agricultural workers, people with farms and dairies. And so, you know, that's always, when we get rain, it's the talk of the town. And I mean, we have like Gen Z kids who are like, how many inches you got? Because they're engaging with the things that our customers are interested in, and I think it makes everybody a little more well-rounded, right?
Right. And so that's one thing is, that's some of the tools that I try to give people that I hire is like, okay, when somebody walks in the door, say you walk into someone's home and nobody's there, right? Like, what does that make you feel like? It makes you feel like I'm not supposed to be here. All right. So that's another thing is
or
like,
they don't want me here.
Or,
I've been to businesses where I'm like, I don't think these people working back here want me to order.
Or have you ever walked into a restaurant or something and no one's been in the front? Everybody's in the back, right? You're like, I'm about to get in trouble being here. I'm not supposed to be here, So that's one thing is be present, and if you're in the back room, as soon as somebody's in there, hey, what's up? I'm coming, and then another thing is even when you're in the front, when somebody walks in, how rude is it when if you come into someone's home and they ignore you immediately, and it's just like, no, what you do when someone walks into your home or when you walk into someone else's home is there a greeting that takes place.
Yeah, you acknowledge
and you
them.
acknowledge their presence and you invite them in. So it's the same thing here. And, what goes through employees' minds a lot of times is like, this is a public place and anybody can come in and out. But it's really not. It's like when you're behind the counter, this is our home. And when people walk through that door, they're coming into your home. And you need to acknowledge that they came into your home. It's really important. That's a big part of hospitality is that people feel welcome, that they get welcomed into this atmosphere of a new home that they're invited into and that they can come and experience your hospitality in. And so that's a big thing is just acknowledging people. And then
So wait, what was your first point?
I would say one is, what did we say?
Oh, it was just hospitality, right?
Well, just parts of hospitality.
Oh, remembering people's names and connecting, and then atmosphere.
Yeah.
Well, a welcoming environment.
So yeah, that's another thing is inviting them into an atmosphere where they're welcome is really huge. And then I would say the other part of that puzzle is giving them something good that you enjoy too. And it's the sharing. It's kind of like the cup of coffee that we can connect over. So this is like, I would say, a really good connecting point. And if it's not good, they won't be back, but you can still connect with that person over it. I've had people, I've served them, say, a perfect drink, and it's just not what they wanted. But we can still laugh about it. We can still connect over it. And I can still take that opportunity to repair whatever it was that they didn't want.
The disconnect.
And that's a whole nother thing is like, growing up in the deep South, you can say, whatever you want about the deep South, turn your nose up about it, but it's a people and it's a culture that understand hospitality.
Yeah, Southern hospitality.
They understand when people come into their home, like those people are absolute royalty. And that's something that I remember growing up is like, hey, when people come over to your house, when people came over to grandma's house and we were there to our house, it was like, those people are our guests. Yeah. Like they go first in line for food. They get to decide what they want. The kids, if they want something, doggone it, you gave it to them. It didn't matter what it was. Even if it was like, we couldn't get candy, but they wanted candy. Guess what? Guess who's getting candy? Guess who's getting whatever they asked for? Because they're the guest. And so that's something that we always carry over to our house too, is like when we have guests, we treat them like royalty. But that's another thing is when people come here, it's really important that they're the focus of our service. They're the focus of our attention.
Yeah.
Again, it's not this predator prey type thing where I'm trying to extract something out of them.
So I think at our home, that's just something we love to do and we practice it and there's nothing to gain. So I don't think that it's ever a question that what we carry into our store is because we have something to gain. I think, hospitality is who we are, you can talk about whether that's something that is just ingrained in you or if it's something you learn. But I think that anybody can learn to be hospitable.
Yeah.
But it's if you value it, then you need to be intentional to say, oh, where could I improve in hospitality? Because I think that some of it we catch growing up, right?
Right.
And I know people that grew up in homes that were not very hospitable, and it shows. You're like, oh, maybe they're just not from the South, or whatever it is.
Right, and it's it's a shock.
But it's you're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to come back here. I don't even feel like they wanted me here.
Right.
And so I think that growing in hospitality, learning about hospitality, learning how to make people feel loved and how to make people feel like royalty, even if it's just for 5 minutes in your store, is something worth investing in.
Yeah.
And I, in my home, when I have friends over or friends' kids, I'm just like, what do you want? You want tea? I'll make you a cup of tea.
Yeah.
You want honey? You want sugar? What do you want? Do you want an orange? Do you want an apple? I just try to keep all that stocked. And I just really want to be like a fun aunt or grandma. And I don't have anything to gain from that. I just want those kids to feel like that they can ask me for anything because I love them and I want them to have it, and I want them to feel loved, but also I want them to have a good experience at my house.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know what's in it for me.
Yeah.
But when kids love being at my house and they don't want to leave, I mean, sometimes it's hard on their moms. Like I've had kids throw fits like, no, I don't want to stay, but it's so sweet.
This week, yeah.
But it's just like
multiple times this week. I feel like we've had people with kids over and they've all cried when they left.
But I love it, and I want people to feel loved, and I want that at my store too. I want to offer things that are good that maybe they're not going to experience anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then that's a special thing that Miss Chelsea has, or Tia has and that's our special thing.
Yeah.
And so we have a little neighbor down the road, and when she comes, I'm like, hey Harper, you want some tea? And that's our special thing, and we have tea together, and I love it, So
yeah, so I would say like things apart from just like crunching the numbers, having a good location, having good equipment. These hospitality is huge in doing business, and I would say go through the processes to make sure that your hospitality is good, to make sure that you have a welcoming atmosphere, to be sure that that you do have an excellent product. Like get the training that you need ahead of time. I can't tell you how many people and how many coffee shops have great equipment, but when you order a latte, it's just not there. Like the hospitality is not in the cup. Even if they greeted you, it doesn't matter at that point because the drink's no good. So it's putting these puzzle pieces together in order to make a really good place where people can come in, that they can feel welcome, that they can feel like that they can walk away saying, I really enjoyed that experience all the way around. And I really liked that guy. I really liked that girl I talked to. And I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back just to see if they're there. And so one of my favorite things is when I'm working, when a customer comes in and says, yeah, I talked to that guy last time. Oh, what's his name? And then I'll say, oh, is it Caleb or Braden or whatever? And they're like, yeah, him. So we talked about this last time and I wanted to try it, or I wanted to do something, or I brought something back for that guy because we talked about this and I said I was going to bring it back. Like that's huge to me when somebody takes the time out of their schedule just to like drop something off for somebody to say, yeah, we talked about this and we talked about trying it. Here it is. But, I just encourage you guys, start building that now before you have a coffee shop, while you're thinking about it. Or maybe you've got like a small coffee shop that just started, or maybe you've been in business forever and you notice that, hey, these are some weak points that we have. Like, start connecting with people. And it really comes from a genuine place inside you that says, I want to get to know this person better. These are the people that I work for. I need to get to know them.
Well, and I think it comes from that deep place of, I want to give them more than coffee. I want to give them an experience, and I want to, I guess, love them, And I think that I would reiterate what you're saying is like, make hospitality part of who you are. And I remember in a season when we were starting out here and we were short on help, and it was actually getting busier than we could handle. And we didn't have a lot of employees, and Lance was like living up here, and he was stressed, and I was stressed, and we were tired. And I remember him coming home one day and he said, I'm just trying to get all the things done back here. And every time a customer comes in, I just feel upset, like, oh my gosh, another thing to do. And I'm like, babe, the customers are the point. Like, we need them. Like, you can't feel like that about them. And he was like, I know. And then it really spoke to me because I'm like in this season where he's gone all the time and I'm home and I'm doing dishes and I'm just trying to keep up with the day to day. And my kids are like, Mom, this, Mom, that. And I'm like, I'm doing stuff. Like, don't interrupt me from this thing I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like telling Lance, hey, babe, the customers are the point.
The people are the point.
And the Holy Spirit's like, hey, Chels, the kids, they're the point. And I'm like, oh yeah. And so we were both like learning that season of what it means to value people, humans, over everything else, and to love them, and to be willing to be interrupted and take time for them, and to be intentional, to care and listen, care about their stories, listen to whatever they want to share, whether it's sad or exciting or whatever. And I think that has grown us up into who we are, and we're still growing.
Yeah.
There's still ways that we can grow in hospitality. But it is a foundation of who we are as people. And so because it's not something that we're trying to outwardly implement, it's something that we are inside, and I think comes out.
Well, I think that's huge, is that it is on the inside. It is at home. It is like, it's become part of our life. And so it's very easy to carry it over into work, because work's just, a bigger part of our life. And I would just say, like, that's why I would say practice this stuff now, because these are things that you can implement outside of a coffee shop environment, outside of a work environment. These are things that you can do at your home. These are things that you can, recognize about yourself with the people that you love around you, to say, like, are the people around me just getting in the way of what I'm trying to do? Or are the people in my life something that I cherish? Because in the end, that's what it all comes down to, is, you hear people who have had it all, and at the end, when they're on their deathbed, they just say, I wish I would have spent more time with the people that I love.
This is so deep. It's getting so...
It is deep, but I mean, okay, so here's the thing, is like, it's funny because it seems really surface level to welcome someone when they come in the door, but it really does like open a Pandora's box of why it makes that person feel the way they do. And like, you can say it's just something that we use to manipulate people, and some businesses do that. But at the same time, these are the reasons why stuff like that works. and why people feel welcome and why people need to be welcomed and why it's important that you actually set down what you're doing for a second and say, the person that just walked in the door is more important to me than what I'm working on right now. And that thing can wait, but they can't wait. And I'm gonna turn my attention to them. And it really is, it's a shift inside of you. And I would say it's much easier when you just genuinely love people. Yeah. But if you don't love people, I'll be honest with you, you don't need to be in this business. If you don't, and it's not that you don't love being around people, that's different. If you just love people well, like if you set them higher than yourself and you try to give them something, and be selfless and to serve them and to love them well. I just feel like that makes all this way easier. It makes it not a drag. It's not your life being sucked out, but you gain so much from being in relationship with your customers. Like I love when people I know walk in and they walk in all day. It makes it hard for me to come up here and do stuff sometimes because I'm constantly in conversation with people.
Yeah, this is not a place that we do extra work.
Yeah, so if I'm going to do any computer work, like I can't sit at this table and do computer work in the store because people sit down with me because they know like, hey, let's talk. And so instead I'll put the computer down and I'll sit and talk to them for 30 minutes or an hour, and then I'll go home and work on it there. Yeah.
I would say if you're wanting to grow in hospitality, do something maybe at home with friends, serve somebody something, have somebody over where you have nothing to gain. You have nothing to gain from it. They're not going to pay you for a service. Invite that couple over, invite that single guy over, feed him something that you like. If you're wanting to do a coffee shop, you better have something good to serve people. Do it in your home. Serve them.
Yeah.
And grow in that. And so that it is becomes so natural for you to do it in the setting of your store or cafe.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we got for you this time. I hope you walked away with something. Thanks for checking out the channel. Be sure to check out Bite of Brownie Productions if you like this video. He can make you one. And we'll see you next time on Coffee Snob.